The flames were rising so fast that even the cold night air couldn't keep up. Jake Turner, a quiet small-town mechanic, had only stopped on the highway to check a strange noise from his old pickup. But then he heard it, two high-pitched cries from a smoking SUV on the shoulder. Without thinking, Jake sprinted toward the chaos. The heat scorched his arms as he forced the jammed back door open. Inside, two terrified twin girls clung to each other, coughing, crying, shaking. "Close your eyes, sweethearts. I got you," he whispered, grabbing them both in his arms. Seconds after he jumped away from the vehicle, it erupted into flames behind him. That night, Jake went home with blistered hands, a burnt shirt, and no expectation of anything. He'd done what any decent human would do, at least that's what he believed. But the next morning, the ground began to tremble. Jake ran outside, and froze. 3 helicopters were landing in his empty cornfield. Men in suits stepped out, followed by the twins' mother, a famous tech billionaire he didn't recognize. Tears streamed down her face as she ran to Jake. "You saved my whole world," she cried. "And we're here to save yours." Jake didn't understand, until she turned and motioned to the helicopters. Inside were tools, supplies, and documents that would change his life forever. His act of kindness had echoed farther than he ever imagined. Jake Turner had never seen a billionaire in real life, let alone one stepping out of a private helicopter onto his dusty farm. But Evelyn Hart wasn't acting like a billionaire. She was acting like a mother whose heart had almost been torn from her chest. Her twin girls, Lily and Lila, ran straight into Jake's arms the moment they spotted him. "Jake! You saved us! Mommy said you're our hero!" they squealed, clinging to his legs like they'd known him forever. Jake's throat tightened. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. He was a man who worked quietly, fixed engines, and minded his own world. But Evelyn wasn't here for gratitude alone. "Jake, my security team investigated the crash," she said softly. "Someone tampered with my car. Someone wanted to hurt me. But you," her voice cracked, "you saved the only 2 people who keep me alive." Jake felt a chill. He had walked into something bigger than he'd expected. Evelyn motioned toward the helicopters. "Inside there are engineers, builders, lawyers, and partners. Last night, after I put my girls to sleep, I made a decision." Jake blinked, confused. "I'm buying your entire debt," she said. "Your farm, your workshop, everything you've been struggling to keep afloat, it's yours free and clear. And I want to build a state-of-the-art auto center here, with you as head of operations." Jake stared at her, stunned. "Ma'am, I'm just a mechanic." "No," Evelyn said firmly, tears glistening. "You're the man who ran into fire for children he didn't even know. You're exactly the man I want leading it." For the first time in years, Jake felt his future shift, like the burnt, broken pieces of his life were being rebuilt in ways he'd never dared dream. Jake Turner had lived his whole life fighting to stay afloat. Banks called weekly, his crops barely grew, and his old workshop leaked every time it rained. And now he was staring at blueprints, contracts, and engineers walking around his field like it was the HQ of a big city company. It didn't feel real. "Why me?" he finally whispered to Evelyn as they walked beside the barn. She smiled gently. "Because the world needs people like you, people who act without cameras, without applause, without expecting anything in return." Jake shook his head. "I didn't do anything special. Anyone would have saved those girls." Evelyn stopped walking. "No, Jake. People say they would. But you did." He had no answer. Suddenly, one of the engineers jogged over. "Ma'am, we need to show you something." Evelyn glanced at Jake. "Come with me." They walked to the far edge of his property where the ground dipped slightly. A drone hovered above, scanning the soil. The engineer pointed to the screen. "Mr. Turner, your land sits on a massive underground water basin. One of the richest in the state." Jake blinked. "Water? My farm's been drying up for years." "That's because no one drilled deep enough," the engineer replied. "You've been sitting on a fortune." Jake's knees nearly buckled. Evelyn placed a hand on his shoulder. This isn't just luck. Sometimes kindness comes back, but bigger. The girls ran over, laughing as they handed Jake a crayon drawing. Jake, the twins, and a bright sun shining over a huge farm. Mommy says you're family now? Lila said proudly. Jake's eyes stung. He had lost so much over the years, his parents, his savings, his hope. But at that moment, standing in that field, he felt something return. A future. The new auto center rose from the ground faster than Jake imagined. What had once been a forgotten patch of dry soil now held the steel framework of a future he never dared dream about. Workers admired his skills, engineers asked for his input, and Evelyn trusted his every decision. But the biggest change wasn't the construction. It was Jake himself. Every morning, the twins burst through his front door with messy hair and mismatched shoes, shouting, "Jake! Breakfast time! Mommy made pancakes!" He pretended to grumble, but inside, he loved every second of it. One afternoon, as Jake taught the girls how to change a tire, a black SUV rolled up the dirt road. Two men stepped out, stern-faced, dressed in dark suits. Evelyn's security team. "Mr. Turner," one of them said, "we have new information about the sabotage incident." Jake's heart tightened. "Is someone after Evelyn again?" The man shook his head. "Not anymore. The person responsible has been arrested. But there's something else." He handed Jake a folder. Jake opened it, and froze. Inside were documents showing massive illegal attempts to buy his land over the last year. Someone had known about the water basin long before he did. Someone wanted his farm badly. "Who did this?" Jake asked quietly. The agent replied, "A corporate group. But when the crash happened, they assumed you died. After your rescue went viral, they backed off." Jake felt a chill. The fire wasn't just an accident. Fate had protected him in ways he didn't understand. That evening, as he sat on the porch, Evelyn joined him. "You okay?" she asked. Jake nodded slowly. "I think everything that burned that night needed to burn, so something better could start." Evelyn smiled softly. "Then let's rebuild it together." And for the first time in his life, Jake didn't feel alone in the fight.